I got fooled. It's not even real content anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of the AI stuff, it creates an entirely additional layer of content that it fools you or it draws you in, and then it turns out that it's just, I mean, AI is iterative. That's the nature of how it's constructed. So it's almost like, what's the difference? That's the scary part. If you could just like reskin things and have a slightly different plot to the video, if that entertains people, then how much longer will humans really be creating content for?
Hmm. Do you have a guess?
I think it's really scary, but mainly if people like you and I are getting fooled, that's a problem. But the much larger problem is for younger people who never have to develop this kind of mode where you're like, wait, is that real? Do I think that's real? Right? They're not calibrated at all. I think I'm probably subscribing to the belief that we're completely done as a society, probably by the year 2040.
Why is that? Because of AI?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it would be advancements in AI that essentially bring the world to this brink of um, just like this fully automated, almost like singularity type thing. I know this sounds conspiratorial, but I admit that my book is filled with conspiratorial diatribes. But yeah, and look, it's advanced since I published the book. Like I think it might be called like AI 2037. Like it might be the working theory right now. That was published after I wrote my book, and I read it. It's like a 15-minute read, and it gives a very plausible scenario for how AI may shape like the geopolitics of the coming decades. So yeah, it creates some problems. We have the dead internet theory, and we have other things that factor into it. I think we definitely have like a solid decade ahead of us, but then things are going to start getting really really weird.
Whoa. Whoa, man. I cannot even fathom how it will look. Who wrote this AI 2037?
I don't remember.
No? Okay, let's check it out.
You should yeah, definitely check it out.
So, AI 2037. That's when the world end, folks. Um, will we have human? Let's share the screen real quick. Ex Google offers warns about AI all become billion times smarter in 2037. Well, there's a bunch of stuff. Oh, there's this one, AI 2027. That's not the one, right?
No, maybe it was 2027. Maybe I'm off by 10 years.
What? No.
No, it definitely ended in a seven.
So Daniel Kokatai, Scott Alexander, Thomas Larson, Ellie Liefland, Romeo Dean. We predict that the impact of superhuman AI over the next decade will be enormous, exceeding that of the Industrial Revolution. We wrote a scenario that represents our best guess about what that might look like. It is informed by trend explorations, war games, expert feedback, experience at OpenAI, and previous forecasting success. Whoa! Experience at OpenAI? Did they work there? They left there and they're alive? Wasn't there like a whistleblower who got quote unquote unalived? Something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely the paper I would recommend giving. It's a very long read, but I found it to be fascinating as much as it was scary.
Wow, I'm gonna definitely read that, guys. So for those just listening, is a website called AI-2027.com. Creepy stuff, dude. Creepy stuff. So, if I had to summarize here for the listeners, what the scenario look like?
It really is an extrapolation of what we've seen so far, which is essentially the United States and China,
Oh,
kind of going at it from the perspective of who has the most processing power and turning this processing power into like actionable scientific advancement. And the idea is that as AI becomes more and more advanced, it will completely outstrip uh, our ability as humans to even like generate new ideas. So it talks about how it at first it will be amazing because we'll have all these advancements in things like clean energy, which you would say we're maybe pretty close to certain aspects of like nuclear power and stuff, but we're not quite there. things such as like material science, basically everything we need to kind of get to what we imagine the future really consists of. But eventually, uh, there's this risk that maybe AI could start plotting against us, or that then AI dominance also means world dominance from the perspective of weapon systems. And that's where it gets like really, really dark. And I think it's such a good read. It's unbelievable.
Wow. Isn't that like the Terminator plot, the movie Terminator?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like things are borrowed, like science fiction writers, especially like more future based ones. Like that's really what we've been talking about. And this is probably the most, like I would say, like clear, realization of that so far. So yeah, it's a good read, and I guess as the years go by, we'll be able to say what we did and did not do right.
Hmm. I think Sam Altman, the chairman, right, the CEO from OpenAI, don't quote me on that, but I think he recently said that in the next 10 years, a lot of incredible and amazing companies will uh, be founded. A lot of incredible and amazing services will be provided, thanks to AI, of course, and then not because everything will just be automated. So after that, just it's just the AI is gonna be so it's gonna be everywhere, so powerful that it's like the only you. I want to know your views on how this future will look like, because in my mind the only solution for all of that is universal basic income, because basically we're talking about here is like we won't humans won't have the need to work anymore. Why? AI would do everything. So you need somehow to sustain yourself.
Yeah, I would say UBI is the solution I've also arrived at.
Yeah.
My book doesn't go into this at all because AI was moving so quickly, and I'm not an AI expert. But yeah, universal basic income is probably the solution. But also, once we see like really wide swaths of unemployment, it's going to introduce a lot of other very, very strange stuff in our reality where like you want people like ultimately like you want people to be entertained at some level. Otherwise the things that they can do collectively are quite dangerous. So yeah, I think universal basic income is important, and then deciding what we can and can't automate. I think frankly we're still very far away from automating certain things, whereas like fully driverless cars, we're saying are still a little bit of the way off, right? And at this point everyone thought we were going to have them, but progress there has actually been much slower. So in any case where human lives are at stake, or there are highly maybe fine-tuned motor functions, we probably have a few more decades.
Hmm. Do you remember this robot from Elon Musk? What was his name again? Optimus. Optimus. It's not called Optimus Prime though. I think his idea was to implement AI into those robots, so they could perform day-to-day tasks like washing the dishes and doing your laundry. I mean, in my mind, they could also drive your car, but then you can just implement the Optimus thing from. As far as I know, they're doing the opposite way. They're taking all the things they learned from the car and then applying to Optimus. Is that the case? Do you know anything about that?
So not that specifically, but I do
Yeah,
have like one of my best friends works in self-driving, and
yeah.
he's revealed quite on the machine learning side. And for me, like understanding what AI means there and how you would train it and deploy it, and then what an acceptable like error rate is just totally different. Like even if we get to the point where we have these like highly functional, whatever ambulatory like robots that can like walk around and perform many functions, you then have to consider things like repairing them. And like it's just there's just so much that goes into it, that I think it's a little bit, the complexity is a little bit outside of what we'd consider today. I think we're going to see a lot more in the general sense, which is to say taking very specific cases, like paving a road, laying bricks, and then eventually one day we get to building a bridge, maybe. But still, so much of that deals with heavy machinery anyway, that it's still insanely expensive just to do the machine part, never mind the actual sensors and the AI part.
Yeah, yeah. I think the way it's gonna go is like pretty much how it is today. Like we have highly sophisticated and developed countries that look like the future, and then other parts of the world that still looks like 100, 200 years ago. Like take North Korea, for example. Sorry, South Korea. There's a huge difference. South Korea, where they literally have LODs like on path walkways when you cross the street. Have you seen that? When you're
Yeah.
crossing the street, so you don't need to look up. You can keep looking at your phone because you're looking down anyways. And they have like green and red dots on the so you can cross the street so you know if it's time to go or not. So it's like cyberpunk level stuff.
Yeah.
What? So while this exists on the same planet Earth, we have like countries on Africa that don't have like toilets, potable water. So I think this my my vision is that this discrepancy would just grow even larger.
Yeah, I think that's true, where we
Mm,
almost see a new era of colonialism, where if we do figure out energy, which is probably the most important part of this, if we actually figure out like different aspects of whatever it is, like nuclear fission, um, then we can more or less invade countries using more productive technology, where essentially we can take other peoples out of like the stone age or just the industrial age or whatever kind of age of technological innovation they're stuck in. But I think we can't change the laws of physics. So if we're saying, hey, we have this and we have that, whatever, like getting the equipment to some, like for example, let's say we figure out a perfect AI operated lawnmower. Okay, that's great. How do you get the lawnmower to each person's house? And then how do you fuel it? Right? Those are still two huge issues where maybe we figure this out with vacuum cleaners in people's homes to some extent, but nobody's really replacing a maid with a vacuum cleaner. To the same extent, if we say, hey, we figured out how to do everything, now we need to take it to Africa or certain parts of Southeast Asia, or even extremely rural areas. We can't change the laws of physics. You still have to get things there, and you have to power them once they are there. And these things, there's no cheap way to do it.
yeah, yeah, man. I don't know. I don't like that future that we're going. I mean, at some like in one hand, it's extremely exciting. All the new tech, like who knows? Maybe they even come up with flying cars. Who knows? Like there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to, right? Even like going to Mars and stuff. Like I want to be alive to see all of that. But on the other hand, it just feels like we're going towards this dystopian